I'm going to talk about the probability between two sample means. So a lot of this is the same. So this first two steps are the same. What is different is when we get to step 3. And in step 3, we're going to find two z-scores because we have two sample means. And then we're going to look up both z-scores in the table, so that's going to make it where we have two percentiles because we're looking at two different z-scores, so that means we have two percentiles. And then we're going to subtract the percentiles, and we're going to have the largest minus the smallest. And you want to make sure this equals a positive probability. If we have a negative one, then you subtracted wrong, right? You can't have a negative chance of rain. You can't have a negative probability, so you did something wrong. So that's just a check to make sure that it's positive. Now I'm going to go over an example about a between probability example. And so again, we have a skew distribution with a mean of 100 and a standard deviation 12. But now we want to know what is the probability of randomly selecting a mean between 96 and 99.5 for a random sample of 36. So again, we're going to know that the central limit theorem holds true because we have a random sample of 36, and we also know that the sampling distribution is going to be normally distributed, have a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 2. And what's going to be a little bit different here is we're going to find two z-scores. Okay, so here we have one z-score for the 96, and we're going to get -2. So we already kind of did that already. But now we want to find the z-score for a 99.5 because we want to know the probability of selecting a sample mean between 96 and 99.5. So we're going to do the 99.5 minus 100 here, and then divide by 2. And we get -0.5 divided by 2, which equals -0.25. We're going to look up two z-scores in the table. So we have a percentile of 0.0228 for the -2 and a percentile of 0.401 for the -0.25. And on the next slide, I'll show you how to calculate the probability for the z-score of -0.25. And the last step is to subtract the percentiles. We want the bigger one minus the smaller one. Okay, because you always want it to be positive. If it's negative, then you did something wrong. Okay? So here is the distribution. I'm going to try to draw it out for you so maybe it makes a little bit more sense. So I'm going to have the z-scores again: 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, and -3. I'm going to draw the -2 here, and then the -0.25. That doesn't have to be perfect. When you're drawing, these don't have to be perfect. It's just for you, so you kind of understand what you're doing. So if you don't draw it perfectly, that's okay. So here we have the z-scores drawn, and now I'm gonna kind of depict the probabilities or the percentiles that we already have. So from this line on, we know that is 0.0228. So the area under the curve here is this 0.0228. And then from this line on, we know that that area is the 0.0228. 0.4013. So the area below the curve from negative 0.25 to the left is 0.4013. But what we want to find is the area between these two z-scores. So we're trying to find that area. So we're trying to find this area between. So if we know what those two areas are and we subtract the smaller one from the bigger one, we're left with this in-between area. Okay, and so that is the 0.2426. So if you couldn't figure out how to get the negative 0.25 for the other z-score, so right, our second z-score was negative 0.25. These z-scores kind of come out pretty well. There's not too many decimal points for these z-scores in my slides, but if you have more decimal points than 2, then you should round to 2 decimal points because that's all the z-table gives you. So we have a negative 0.25 that we're trying to look up. So first we're going to find negative 0.2. Okay, so we're going to, so the z-table, the first column here, where it says z, corresponds with the whole number before the decimal, and then the number right after the decimal. Okay, so we're going to find that in this column, so it's there. And then the columns that are up here, all these correspond to the second decimal place of 5. And again, we ignore the first 0. Just ignore all these first zeros up here, okay? Oops. So ignore every single one of these, okay? Sometimes that confuses students. So then we're gonna go find the 5, which is here. And where this intersects is the 0.4013. So that's the percentile for a z-score of negative 0.25.